So where do I begin with this week's Flash review? I'm just going to start off straight at the end with my reaction. We have to wait 4 weeks of a break until we get the next parts of that cliffhanger. How's it going, species? Welcome to a brand new Flash review. Now, this is obviously for episode 17 of season 5, titled Time Bomb, and I enjoyed this episode a lot for many reasons, but there was also kind of, as usual, a couple of problems in it that I really actually had quite an issue with. I will get to those. Don't want you guys thinking I'm shitting on it. As usual, disclaimer, I'm a big fan of the Flash, but when I look at stuff critically, I can't help but find some flaws, so I hope you guys maybe agree with some of them, maybe you don't, but let me know down in the comments below, no matter on what I say, and most importantly, let me know your thoughts on this episode, because of course, guys, finally, by the end of this episode, Team Flash learned about Nora, and this is what we've been waiting for the longest time. So like this video, guys, if you do go on to enjoy it, of course, and only if you do, and subscribe if you're brand new as well, if you want to stay up to date with more Flash videos like this. So the beginning of the episode saw Nora speaking to Thorn, or should I say freaking out to Thorn, essentially saying, we gave the cure to Cicada, it should have worked. And this is where Eobard was like, I know what I said, I was very wrong. He then went on to say, there's only one thing left to do. Tell your father. It did make me think, especially by the end, in terms of what Sherlock said, in terms of how Eobard is manipulating the timeline to serve his own purpose, or that's kind of what he thinks. It makes me think that as well, and this has been a long-standing theory. I think it's obvious that there is, or there has to be, some kind of ulterior motive to Thorn. I think everyone realizes that, at least to get out the cell and to be away and to be free or whatever, and he's using Nora to do that. But we haven't got that fully out in the open yet, but we definitely got a bit more closer to Thorn's motives through using Nora, but we still have to wait till maybe the next episode and maybe a couple more episodes to find out exactly what plan Thorn has up his sleeve. Then, of course, we had our first scenes with Grace and All-In. I found this very interesting, and I think this is the beginning of where I take issue with a couple of things in the episode. Now, I don't take issue with it massively. It's just, to me, it felt rushed, or it almost lacked a little bit of explanation. So of course, it was pretty cool seeing All-In with a future Grace. He's quite literally like WTF, but I think my issue is throughout this episode, it's a bit too much of a forced change, as I just put it, or it's too sporadic. That All-In, should I say, is looking at Griselda, shall I say, just kind of why would you be killing people? Why would you be killing these metas? Not that he said those exact words. Bottom line, what I'm trying to say here is that he's looking at Grace throughout the episode. I'm skipping multiple scenes, collect them all together, WTF. He was down for killing people before. Metas, not humans. Grace is a little bit different there, of course. I'm not talking about that, but he doesn't want anything to happen like that. And it's just maybe if they said after they gave him the cure that satellite shard, the dark matter, it fueled their rage, maybe made them even more angry, but they didn't give that explanation. That was actually all-in. All that the satellite shard literally did was give them dark matter, thus giving them abilities that actually even empowers them over time more and more and more. But it doesn't provide them their rage. So for Cicada's rage just to turn off just like that from last episode, just because he's been cured, and I did try to factor, I tried to put my feet in both shoes here in terms of saying maybe it's just seeing what Grace has turned into. It has made him feel a bit I don't know, but it still doesn't explain it. Now, before anyone thinks that I'm projecting this onto Grace as well, I don't think that, because during this episode, they also did say how when Grace was in a coma, she heard, or it was kind of linked with All-In's mind. So she was feeling his anger and his rage that whole time she was in a coma, thus kind of, she was being raised, so to speak, with such toxic, horrible, murderous thoughts. You can only imagine what that would do. So that is comic book logic enough for me to think that, oh yeah, Grace is grown up pretty messed up. So I don't have a problem with her being a murderous psychopath. Now let's talk about Sherlock this episode. It's stuff that I absolutely adore and love, Sherlock scenes, mainly because it's Tom Cavanagh, but also mainly because this is the storyline I think everyone, or the majority of the fan base, are in it for. I found it a little bit of a backtrack when Sherlock was, kind of talking to himself. He was like 100% completed translation stuff. Awesome. We're getting into it now. But when he was just like, oh, I know you're working with someone, but no name. So immediately I thought, wait, Sherlock doesn't know that she's working with Thorn? I know that sounds stupid. You must be like, Boba, how would you know that? Because otherwise he would have just come forward about that ages ago. Not necessarily. The reason why I say this is because if you go back to the episode where Nora, Barry, and Iris entered Grace's mind, but then they entered Nora's mind as well. At the end of that episode, I thought they were pointing out that Sherlock essentially 95% had a suspect, but no proof. That's why I think he didn't come forward with it all this time. Because if you remember, he asked what Nora's protection was in her mindscape, so to speak. Because in every mindscape, Grace had the Crusader protector, Nora had the reverse flash suit. And when freaking Sherlock went to Barry at the end of that episode and says, who was it? She was just like, like reverse flash or like Eobard Thawne, right? And I thought that was telling the audience that he kind of had a suspect or in prime suspect. And I thought that it was going from there on out. But like this episode kind of makes it seem like that moment was pointless all those episodes ago. It really was pointless if you think about it, because he has no idea who it is until this episode, until he finds out through the translation of Nora's journal with Gideon. So let me know if you agree with that. As I said, go back to that episode. He literally finds out that the protector was Nora. Sure, you could argue he didn't put two and two together, but come on. What was the point of that scene then? Of course, we had Team Flash finding out there's a time sphere, and I feel like most of the audience figured out before Team Flash did that basically two spheres are the same time sphere. But Sherlock was looking into the time sphere plans, and Iris was in his face just like we've had before. It seems that whenever Sherlock is getting on something, Iris is like, what are you doing, Sherlock? Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just go away, Iris. Let Sherlock get on with it. But I think my favorite Sherlock scene, minus the breakdown he did at the end, and I'll get to that, was where he was like, oh, if I'm Eobard Thawne, what kind of man am I? And it's just when he was like figuring out, Eobard Thawne essentially, and he opened that little secret bit, and it was like this futuristic USB stick. I do feel like the one storyline they have struck gold with this season, and the one that never fails to really be entertaining, is Sherlock Wells. It just really is the case, so I loved all those scenes. So now let's get on to like a very interesting bit, and that's when he went to Gideon, basically found this video log, or should I say Eobard Thawne vlog, which is kind of random. It's just like, okay, maybe I need to suspend some of the belief here. It's like, is that the only thing that Eobard Thawne put on that little futuristic USB? Just one random vlog? But I want to explain this bit like as best as I can, or at least my interpretation of it, because I found it really cool, regardless of how random it is for Eobard to like just record that. It's very convenient, but whatever. Sherlock essentially finds a video recording of Eobard talking about how his knowledge is intractable. Basically how, obviously there's variables that change in time. There's been a billion examples of that throughout the show. Some that are never fulfilled, which are plot holes because they should have massive effects on the timeline. But essentially, he was just breaking it down. So like variables change, the timeline changes, and as a result of that, the memory changes too, without any knowledge of time's other possibilities. But not for Eobard Thawne. Bottom line from my perception of that recording is that he says time changes, people change, obviously without them even realizing that when it changes, or whatever variable that caused it to change, but it won't change for him because his knowledge will be fixed almost. It's intractable. It is just going to be Thawne knowledge. But then again, in this episode, at the beginning, we obviously had the part where he was like, I was very, very wrong. So the way I also perceive this is that he was absolutely gobsmacked at the beginning, and this recording was a reference to that, and like his knowledge isn't intractable. But then again, as I said at the beginning of this review, all of this could be a part of his plan, and he knew this was a possibility, and it doesn't matter anyway. I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think down in the comments below. I know I blurb on about things, but this is super duper interesting conversation to me, so I'd love to know what you guys think. Now, I'll save the Sherlock kind of breakdown reveal for the end of the episode, obviously, before we talk about him again. Other than that, it was good seeing Ralph again this episode. I loved his words of wisdom to Cisco, which reminds me, Cisco and Camilla are now freaking social media official. This is probably building up him leaving the show, if that is quite literally confirmed. Apparently it is, but apparently it's still up in the air. But you know how that goes. So yeah, I feel like they're just growing that storyline. Who knows? I can imagine Camilla getting a gig in some other city to do with her photography or something, and Cisco just goes with her. But there's been 2 Spider-Man jokes in the Arrowverse this week, and that is on Arrow through Colin Hawke, and we also got that through Ralph. As I said, loved Ralph's words of wisdom, because also Cisco is struggling with balancing those 2 worlds. That was a big theme in this episode, of course, through Nora struggling to tell her secret to her father. They played that with the family secret, that lady with the ATM machine. She was trying to keep a secret from her family that she's a meta. And lastly, we had Cisco struggling with his secret. Should he tell his girlfriend Camilla that he's also a metahuman? So I quite liked that, how each storyline in this episode was more or less similar situations. But on the other side of things, we had Griselda actually coming in to attack that lady. And I did laugh out loud when she said murderer, just because it's so ironic. But at the same time, this was really important because she wasn't a murderer. Her death was an accident, and this is another thing. As much as I think Chris Klein played a good, innocent kind of version of Cicada this episode, and I like that, it's just too much of a character change very quickly, as I've already mentioned quite a bit in this review. So I liked how he was trying to say to freaking Griselda how it was an accident. I mean, as soon as he suggested that to Grace, she was like, why are you talking like them and stuff? And Orlin is honestly just back. It's like he's as I said, I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on Orlin, but it's like he has 2 different acting characters, Cicada and Orlin Dwyer, before he became that evil, like when he was wandering the fair with Grace and you saw how much of a nice guy he was. He's like gone back to that. But it's just like, as I said, I wish they gave an explanation that for some reason this dark matter enraged whoever has it, for some reason, just because it would make a whole bunch more sense as to why he suddenly lost all of his rage. Yet when they have that dark matter in their system from the shard or whatever, it's like their acting goes overdrive in terms of rage, and everyone knows that. That's become a big meme with Cicada. But as soon as he doesn't have it and he's cured now, it's just completely off. It's completely off. Let's talk about that scene when Barry was running away from the dagger for a second. I love that. That was so cool. I really didn't expect it when he was running away from the dagger. Like when he used the ring, that was a really pleasant surprise. I totally forgot about the flash ring, to be honest. So that was really cool, but it was convenient for the story again. Like the dagger was right there. Nora lost her powers, but the dagger was just like, what? That far away further? Oh, okay, I'll make it a bit bigger from Barry, but it didn't get rid of his. I don't want to sound picky because I know it annoys some people, but you do have to acknowledge this. You really do. I also didn't like just how the dagger could keep up with a speedster. Granted that this whole scene was very cool, just with Nora running away from the dagger as well. It's just, it can keep up with a speedster. Like, what? Going back to OG Cicada's kind of character change, that is when he dies. Because just before that, he said, essentially, this isn't a way to make the world a better place. I was wrong. Okay, fair enough. I believe you that you've changed your mind, but too quick, too fast. I get that you think it's wrong. As I said, would make a whole bunch more sense if somehow they said that this version of dark matter made them more evil or just enhanced their anger. It would make so much more sense than him just being like, this is not the way to make the world a better place. How do I feel about this? I'm okay with it. It is what it is, right? There's not much else to Orlin's story now. They've inserted Griselda. I thought it would have been a nicer ending to Cicada, I think, as I keep saying, if they maybe started his journey back to normalcy or seeing how wrong he was in murdering metas 2 or 3 episodes back. Even if it was done last episode, I still would have felt like it's too rushed. So that's how rushed I feel like his character change of mind was. And lastly, everyone, let's talk about the freaking reveal. So I was very happy because I've been saying for the longest time, I think it would be really cool, and I theorized very earlier on, when Nora's secret comes out, it'd be really cool if Cecile was used to verify the truth of that. And they did it, kind of, but no way near as much as what I thought they would, just because she's an empath. What they did do is that she said, oh, you've got something to tell us. They played the sound effect of her using her power, so she knew something was up. He was stealing the show. He was literally almost using it as a performance. He's a freaking universe's greatest detective, right? So he can sell something. He's been biding. He's been almost like waiting for this opportunity, and finally he's cracked the case. And it was really cool how he chronologically explained how each thing is unfolded in regards to Nora and Eobard Thawne. But as I said, I thought they would have maybe thrown in the Iris. Why would you say this? This isn't true. But then Cecile would be like, no, Nora's telling the truth, and everyone would shut up. That would have been cool, but maybe that's just me saying, you should have used my idea. I'm joking. It maybe wasn't just my idea. I'm not the only one who can think of things. But moving onwards, Barry's face, my God, call me a freaking whatever, but like when Grant Gustin's eyes just glaze over like that, it's such good acting, and I was so absorbed into this scene. I personally love Nora in season 5, despite all the issues, say what you will. I love the father-daughter dynamic and premise of what's happened, you know, the concept of what's going on in this season. So it was very emotional for me to watch that scene. It sucks that it ended where it did. Barry feels so betrayed, immediately locked her up in the pipeline, you know, and then it essentially ended, making us really think and wait until what's happening in 4 weeks' time. We have to wait a month, guys, till we get the Godspeed episode. And I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but that's why we didn't get Daniel Pennebaker, because she would have been preparing / doing a bit of pre-production for her episode, which is the next episode titled Godspeed. And the promo will be out on my channel later on with my breakdown of that. This episode was good. It wasn't perfect. It had really good moments in it, but, you know, my issues that I've already mentioned to you guys. So let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. I don't know what else more to say. This video is going on way too long than what I want it to, but I just felt like I had to say so much about this episode. So let me know your thoughts on what I said down in the comments below. Anything that I said, I would love to talk with you guys about this. I do read every comment. I might not be able to get back to everyone, but rest assured, I do read every single one. So if you want to let me know something, let me know. Other than that, guys, subscribe if you're brand new. Thank you so much for watching, Speedsters, and I'll see you in the next video, which is the promo breakdown. See you later, guys.